Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of The New Normal from Dublin Tech Talks in association with Icon Accounting. We have with us today Noel Walsh, who's Operations Director for TEKenable, Irish cloud-based company. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Gavin, how's it going?
Great. Do you want to give a bit more information about TEKenable, what their role is and what your role is within the business?
Yeah, well, TEKenable, we've been around since 2002, and I suppose our heritage has been in, bespoke system development for customers on the high-code side. And in the last number of years, we've moved to, a low-code approach. So it's about rapid development for customers. And again, it's a cloud focus, so probably cloud first in the majority of cases for customers. It's about digital first, digital evolution. So it's about, engaging with the customer, enterprises that have existing technology, they have investments, and actually leveraging that by using good cloud technology to support that and actually extend it out for their better customer engagement effectively. So again, the low-code approach for over the last couple of years, we feel has helped us to rapidly, engage with customers. Cloud as well, obviously been a very important point for us. And it's as well for our team. It's a good way of keeping skills continuously growing inside the team. So we're not left with legacy technologies, and we have some support of legacy technologies, but we're always learning new technologies in the cloud space.
Yeah. So I reached out to yourself more. Obviously cloud adoption is pretty key at the moment, and the growth of the business has been pretty strong over the last few years. What have you seen? Obviously the need to go cloud first at the moment is more, couldn't be more prevalent. But before maybe 2019, what was the kind of attitude towards cloud adoption and kind of what people were not wanting to go cloud?
Yeah, well, I suppose, cloud has been around now for a good few years. I think it's back in 2009, 2010, Microsoft, the Azure cloud, I suppose, became sort of a word that we're all well used to at this stage. So initially, cloud was almost seen as, for organizations, they've invested in their own infrastructure, they've invested in their own hosting environments, etc. So it was a nice to have. And there was obviously challenges as well because of governance, etc. How do you manage the governance in the cloud, etc. Security, where's my data going to reside, etc. And these are all challenges that I suppose over time, these cloud providers, Google, AWS, Microsoft, have tried to, I suppose, alleviate those risks with customers by, certainly developing trust centers for customers to be very clear of how your data is managed and governed, etc. And it's led to obviously more organizations going on the cloud, taking advantage of the cloud, its scalability, its elasticity. I suppose recently, one thing you'll see is that those organizations that have moved to the cloud, probably in the circumstance we're in right now, have found it a little bit easier to rapidly adjust to the COVID-19 crisis, whereas maybe organizations who haven't maybe embraced the cloud as much find it more of a challenge, certainly sort of rapidly deploy, remote teams, being able to, scale infrastructure to support those people that are working now from home rather than working from centralized office locations will be one of the things. So, there's obviously key advantages to the cloud. There's organizations that have made large investments themselves and want to try and manage that themselves internally. So it's getting that, I suppose, for every organization is getting that balance right. But certainly being cloud ready at the moment is certainly an advantage, I would think, with the COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, I was surprised now when the amount of businesses that weren't kind of remote ready or cloud ready. You've talked to a few people and they were still working on desktops. So, it's a surprise, but you've probably seen a lot worse over the last couple of years, and, people's understanding of what it means to be a cloud native company or cloud ready or, work anywhere company to what it actually is.
Yeah. Well, if you're a startup, you're probably very much in that space. You're cloud first, certainly. But for large enterprises, and with bricks and mortar, obviously as well, it's a balance of on-premise, cloud, etc. Certainly, even recently, a lot of the cloud providers they're reaching maxes in certain hosting locations in data centers because of the uptake of virtual desktops, for instance, like you said, people who are physically on physical desktops. Now it's all a lot of virtual desktops been implemented in the last couple of weeks to support remote workers. So it's easy for some organizations to be cloud ready. Our organization like ourselves, our team would probably be flexible, working from home some days a week would be a normal sort of situation for our team. And now that we're all remote in the last number of weeks, it hasn't been a massive leap for us because, again, people had the infrastructure themselves personally, and also the company had the infrastructure to support that, because a lot of our systems are cloud-based anyways for supporting our customers.
Well, and when I worked in my Harvey Nash days, we used to do a CIO survey, and I still remember, like, people's understanding of cloud wasn't actually, they didn't even know they were using cloud applications like a G Suite or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you started talking about what it actually is, they were quite surprised at, how many applications they had. So that must, as people's understanding of technology has evolved, and, leadership, CEO level has understand the applications, has that made it easier to kind of do a kind of an upgrade, or, is it still security concerns has been, always been a concern for a lot of people when they look at that?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, even in organizations that think they're not cloud, they're probably some aspect of something in their cloud. They've got an app on their phone that's been used for some reason for capturing expenses. It's a cloud information. Yeah, I mean, that one is always generally the governance and the security is always probably the critical aspect of any cloud engagement, and it's how data then is secured, how data can be integrated with, because we may have some element of on-premise to work with as well. And the securitization of those systems to make sure that it is a good governance in the organization, and that's very important. I mean, certainly with the more prevalence of cloud, like and technology from outside of work, your WhatsApps, your Facebooks, etc. People even that maybe wouldn't be too tech savvy are using these technologies, and they are cloud based, and people understand the concept of Google, etc. So they're more understanding of what cloud-based systems are, what AWS is, what Azure is, etc. So that's an easier conversation obviously now because it's more mature, and it's just the nature of the maturity of the concept at this stage.
And major security breaches happen all the time. You can we can Google security hack, and you get every company probably under the sun.
Yeah,
and cost of that is exponential. Is that still the number one concern when people are adopting a cloud first attitude, or is that kind of eased over the last while with just better technology?
I think it's certainly eased. I mean, no matter what cloud platform you use, or even cloud service you use, they all now talk about having, and it's not even a platform provider like a Google or an Amazon or a Microsoft. It's even any sort of third-party tool you use where you may be sharing your data. They all talk about the concept of the concept of trust center. The concept of what's their approach to trusting, to ensuring that your data is secure, and the fact there's a trust relationship between you and them as an organization. I mean, and GDPR, I suppose, has led this charge as well. And every project now is DPIA in terms of a GDPR sense. That you as an organization, if you are doing anything in the cloud, or having a provider, you have to have a contract around how that data is managed from a GDPR perspective. So then, normally, obviously, cloud providers need to match up to that as well. So I think that makes, for enterprises, that makes looking at the cloud options a little bit easier, because, again, that level of, I suppose, forensic information is there to be discussed and to be shared and to be easily shared. And like some organizations will have a very large security questionnaire for you to fill out if you want to do something with them. Could be hundreds of questions, and I suppose that's what these cloud providers are just able to answer those questions very easily. And especially for an organization like ourselves in TEKenable, we're ISO certified at around 9001 for process and 27001 for security elements. I mean, that's very important for us, because it shows that we're engaged with organizations that have a level of I suppose approach to governance and security, because you as as any enterprise are probably not spending as much on security as these large cloud providers are. You can be careful. They're spending millions, billions on securing their platforms and their environments.
Is that not the draw, personally? When you look at cloud providers or cloud applications that you buy, you do go towards what you think is the best or the most safest first, and then you look at the application behind it. I mean, that would be how I would look at buying something.
Certainly from an enterprise perspective, yeah. I mean, from a consumer market, sometimes it's the feature set. You want the best features. Yourself, you want a going to go with a service where I get more of the features, you may still look back and go, well, this other company has a better track record. So that's always very important. So it's a balance. I suppose it's a decision for enterprises. Yeah, it's probably again making sure that with my partnership with my vendor, with my supplier, with my provider, I can trust that provider it's going to provide the service and ensure that we don't have data breaches, that the systems that are developed are secure, that the platform we're using is proven, and has been verified by independent third parties. And I suppose that's part of our approach with the low code, no code approach as well. It's bringing sort of platforms to enterprises that can help to rapidly develop on the cloud, but also are, I suppose, proven enterprise platforms for development.
But the low code, no code mentality or work way, that just allows for benefits in reality around kind of quicker adoption, scalability, in a cloud environment. Have you cloud has evolved so much over the last few years. Is that one of the bigger sells of it for organizations, the scalability of the platforms?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sorry, apologies. Yeah, like from a cloud perspective, I suppose AWS was probably the leader. It was the first sort of real cloud initiator, and it was Amazon Web Services. So when you say the word web services, and that's a very technical thing, it sounds like it's a technical integration. It's writing code. It's integrating with web services, and I suppose that's where cloud came from. It was all about providing compute infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. Then was leveraged on top of that, and now I suppose it's the software as a service. It's the solution as a service. So, it was very much a high code sort of implementation initially, maybe in the early days, where you were leveraging the scalability and the elasticity of the cloud to sort of build out your large scale e-commerce platform, website, and your data management platform. But now it's a case of using the tools that the cloud providers are providing. I suppose we're a Microsoft Go partner in the Microsoft space. There's hundreds of tools within the cloud infrastructure they have for using to actually build out a product that you don't have to. You can plug them together. You can do a high code plugging them together, but you have these things you can plug together very, very quickly and easy. And then also you have the software as a service platforms where you can build out an application, but in a low code, no code fashion. So you can rapidly respond to the customer's needs using low code, no code.
You've mentioned it a couple of times there, and it's something that you see more and more. It's the multi-cloud environments people are working in.
Yeah.
Most people would have said, I'm an Azure business or whatever. And I was working on a project recently, and they were an AWS primarily, but they'd started to rely heavily on G Cloud.
Yeah.
That's becoming more common, or even 3 or 4 cloud providers for the best solution for businesses.
Exactly, it is. It's about like anything. It's choosing the right product and the right tool set to service your needs. But like anything, making sure that if you choose another product from another vendor, supplier, cloud platform, you can easily integrate. That's the key point. You can easily integrate, and you can integrate your data, because data needs to flow from service to service, etc. And it could be across cloud providers. And like even going back 10 years ago, you'd have multiple vendors, multiple suppliers who are supplying your enterprise, and they'd be hosting certainly several different locations. So now we're just looking at the fact that I can procure services, and I'm procuring them across multi-cloud. I've got some in Azure, maybe around my Office 365. I have got some in AWS. I may have some in Google. So again, it's becoming now more, like I said, a multi-cloud sort of environment for organizations, because again, it's depending on the solution they're going with, and the partner they have that's providing a solution. It could be hosting these in various different environments. So that's becoming a standard now, I suppose, for most enterprises.
And does that create different, obviously creates different challenges around governance, around security, around,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
How is a business like yours, able to assist with that, or what have you been able to kind of bring to the table for your clients around that world?
Yeah, so I suppose, historically you would have been hosting your data in your own data center, so you'd get control over that, and then maybe you reached out, and now you had a hybrid cloud, and you were in the cloud now, and you needed to have the governance and security between your on-premise and your cloud and hybrid, and now you've got another level up, which is the multi-cloud. You got multiple applications in multiple different environments. So again, it goes back to that sort of good solution architecture, good planning, good governance about how the data is going to integrate across those systems if it's needed, because something might be from a CRM, may need to go to a financial package, may need to go to a workflow engine, and it's just about managing that data flows and the security of that data. And I suppose that's what our background obviously is. We're technologists at heart. We've built large scale applications for enterprises, so that whole solution architecture piece, working with multiple cloud environments, is an interesting challenge for us, but it's stuff that we're well used to doing.
And other challenges to your businesses, obviously away from where we are at the moment, what would be your key challenges at the moment for growth, or for, if you're obviously awarded the Deloitte Fast 50 in 2019, what would you see as the kind of main challenges for your business moving forward?
I suppose we're dedicated to the low code approach to building projects, and we're not saying we're not doing high code, I suppose, implementations, because I suppose for us it's a case of taking those requirements from customers, providing a low code approach, but ultimately if we reach a point where we cannot, the low code platform can't do it, we can extend it with high code. So it's having a strong team, because we're a growing organization, but we're not massive. We're about 60 persons, and we're continuing to grow. So I suppose our growth is based on a very good, strong, leadership team, and a very good, strong, I suppose, delivery team as well, across the board. So that's probably a challenging area for us. Obviously, growing the business in terms of revenue, etc. Engaging with great customers. And also then, I suppose, getting the support of our technical team and growing that technical team out to meet the demand as well. And skills in the marketplace, I suppose, are a challenge for us as well.
Yes, you can join the queue on the skills. I think, especially in cloud and security, they're challenging, I think, is the polite word.
And I mean, based in Dublin, I mean, you're competing against a lot of other organisations who are multinational organisations who are in that space and are the providers of that service that we are then using to consume with our customers. So
I'd nearly argue that the size of your business and where you are makes it nearly a more attractive sell to a person in a larger organization where they mightn't have as much say in a project, or they might just deliver a portion of a project.
Totally. I mean, it goes back to the point I raised earlier that with you that so in our organization, because we're doing, we're in the cloud space. Every week there's new releases. Trying to keep on top of that is a challenge. So there's new functionality, new releases, a new feature that's been released. So our team are always learning. It's a continuous learning exercise. In terms of those new technology, and then taking those and deciding which ones to apply to a project or not to apply to a project. Obviously, is interesting and it can be great and great fun. But sometimes it can be, we shouldn't have done that. After the fact. But that's the challenge of the project. But yeah, it's a very good learning environment. Because of that, and obviously you get to if you want to give input, you'll certainly be allowed to give input in a project based on the size of our organization. Because if you come up with a good idea, you'll be listened to, certainly. And
I don't put you on the spot or anything, but your business has changed over the last 8-9 weeks about how we all work.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier you had some kind of remote working practices. Have you evolved as a business quickly over the last 8-9 weeks about how you're keeping people motivated, how you're delivering projects? It's a different time for everybody, so be good to
no, of course, like any organization. I mean, the fact that you can just talk to somebody over the partition is a very easy thing to do to sort out a problem yourself, that you're in you need something, you need some help, and you can drag somebody into a conversation very quickly in an office environment. So I suppose we probably certainly we're doing a lot more, Teams calls. It's almost death by Teams calls at this stage. We're keeping in, I suppose, good communication across the board with across the projects. I suppose one of the things we try and do is we have a coffee morning each week just to try and catch up with everybody, and people can join the coffee morning if they want to join the coffee morning. So all these social things that a lot of organizations are doing, in similarly, so to try and keep that social aspect working, because when you're in the office, obviously you're meeting people at the water cooler and the coffee maker pretty regularly. So it's try and keep that same social engagement, because it has been, to be quite honest, for some of our staff, it's probably been a challenge. I know, for instance, that there's probably staff that where they're living in a house or apartment that they're sharing with multiple others who are in the same boat. you have 2 or 3 people working hot desking from the kitchen table. That's the reality of where we are right now. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have an office here in my daughter's bedroom, as you probably can see. So it's not so bad. But yeah, they're the challenges we're experiencing like every other organization, and it's a case of just keeping in communication with people and ensuring that they don't have any issues or problems, and trying to address those with your staff.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting. Most companies, I think, have adopted to it very well.
Yes, yeah.
For even organizations that would have been very much, you have to be here 5 days a week.
No, and I mean, yeah, we deal with private sector, public sector, different vertical sectors that would be manufacturing, that would be very much office based, very much location based, and it's amazing to see how those organizations have just literally been able to switch. That's probably hopefully that's one of the it's a new normal we live in now, and I think there's probably, when people look back, people will look back at the challenges, and obviously there's it is a pandemic, and there's obviously it's certainly a changed environment, but I think there'll be from a business perspective, there probably will be a lot of interesting outtakes from this, that organizations will probably see that we can pivot, we can change pretty rapidly if we need to. We've done it. So can we take that forward into how we approach other projects and other challenges in the future?
Yeah, no, I think that kind of, we're an oil tanker and we can change mentality is gone. And one of the last few points that really affects how people will think. I personally think around the digital evolution of their business. For an organization like yourself, that's is a digital transformational business. Is cloud the next normal for everybody? And then what would you see as kind of the next evolution from being cloud? What would you say organizations are going to focus on next?
I think certainly this will refocus organizations to how they've approached, I suppose, that whole remote cloud implementation. I think they'll probably start to see that it'll bring to the table, I suppose, that the operation, probably maybe a clearer picture of the operational to the capital expenditure piece, in terms of the cloud and how we approach it and how we can leverage it. And maybe we were, based on previous investments, we were maybe more focused on what we'd already invested in, but maybe we now need to look at how we invest going forward in the future, and cloud being one of the strategies that organizations take. Certainly, I think that will be one of the things that will drive organizations. I would imagine that the whole bricks and mortar thing will become an interesting point for organizations as well, in that if they have offices and they have like lots of places for people to work, I'm sure they'll be looking at those going, do we really need all this office space now if we've proven that we can work remotely for a period of time? Should we do more hot desking? Those sort of things, because again, that's there's a cost saving there in the physical infrastructure as well. So look at that. Certainly, from a cloud perspective, this will be probably a bit of a game changer. And I know from talking to the cloud providers, they have seen a massive uptake in terms of cloud usage. And there's certain data centers that are reaching maximum capacity because of the uptake.
Wow. Yeah. So just to close then for yourself, what would be your kind of key points for people who mightn't, who probably kicking and streaming into cloud adoption now, but if they were to look at a strategy for post pandemic, what would you be saying to businesses they should be looking at, to get a proper structure in place?
Well, I suppose right now businesses are looking at how they're managing their business right now for the current situation. So they're focusing, I suppose, on that, and that's what all businesses need to look at. But it's really looking at, I suppose after this, hopefully in the next few months, get out of the situation of what is it, what are the positives that they've as a business they've taken out of this, if possible, and then has certainly that the adoption of cloud should help them to digitally evolve with their customer base, because again, they may have existing investments, and it's a case of evolving that investment using good cloud, I suppose, implementations, and leveraging the cloud maybe to help them do that. And again, the whole low code, no code approach to rapidly, be innovative with their customer base and be more engaging, I suppose, with their customers, because like everybody, your customer is your key. You know, that's how you help to survive as a business. You generate your revenue through your customers. You know.
Yeah, it was actually just before we finished. There was we had a talk with a customer experience specialist called Hidai, and he was saying it's funny how businesses forget their customers themselves.
Yeah.
They talk about customers all the time, and
yeah.
look insular and go, "What would I like? What would I like from if it's my business, what would I like to see from my own business?" Yeah. So no, definitely the customer centric way has to has been talked about, but I do think that's going to come.
And I think again, from our perspective, that whole I keep probably go back to the evolution piece. You know, it's not about throwing out everything. You know, you've made investments. It's not a case of throwing those out. You need to moving to the cloud is a gradual process. Right now, you've certainly maybe organizations moved to the cloud a lot to sort of support the whole remote working element of their organization. But moving to the cloud from a digital transformation perspective, we see it as an evolution. As in, it's about leveraging the best in the cloud to bring you new features and better engagement with your customer, but still leveraging previous investments, because you will have previous existing systems and on-premise systems and other cloud systems. You know.
No, 100%. Thanks, Mil, for your time today. No, it was really interesting to learn more about TEKenable and thoughts around cloud. I'll put all the information underneath the cast, and thanks, Mil, for your time.
No problem, Gavin. Great talking to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.